Hello. Oh, I didn't know it was recording. 1 second. Okay, welcome. Here we are. So part 3 of Egyptian magic. Let's get into it. So I hope some of you re-listened to the last class. I even had to re-listen before I got started just to see where we left off and to reconnect with the energies. So we were finishing with invocation of the God self. I know last class we talked a little bit about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I did send you out a copy of that. Let me pull it up. So for some people, it's going to be something where you feel it's almost like opera. You're going to feel a connection with it. And some people might not feel a connection with it and may have to look at it a few different times. I know when I first connected to it myself, it was like it felt so old and it kind of felt like Bible-ish to me because it is kind of a scripture type of thing. But it is very interesting. And of course, when you do look at it, you will get your own meanings and connections to it. And that's really what was about it, is when you do these praises, like when we do the praise to Ra, we are connecting to that energy that is being risen. So the eastern part of the heavens. So once in a while, go back to the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I do like to look at every once in a while and reconnect to it. And I'll also do invocations with it. So go some gods too, you might find more connected to than others. So I know we did, I wonder if we did Osiris, I think, coming forth of the day. So let's go into the next ritual, which I want to go to, because we did the invocation of the God self and overcoming karma. So the first part was all about connecting to the hidden one that is living within us and the spiritual path that we're attempting to connect to. And if you did that, or even if you re-listen to that, you want to see, does it feel like a him or a her? So the invocation to the God self, even though you may be female, your invocation of the amen could be him, may not be a her, or it could be a it. But the invocation informs us that we can know of our hidden help. And we can use this whenever we want. Whenever we wish that we need to introduce something within ourselves or to stimulate some kind of revelation. And so it was, and I'm just going to reread it to reconnect and move on to the next invocation. I, coming forth, am Amen, the hidden one, pure of heart within the pure of body. I live through my words. And then we did the overcoming karma. And I love that, because if you did that, you would have realized that even through this time of doing it and through the month of June with everything restless, it is an invocation to clean up our life, right? It is. So if things that we need are happening, that we want them removed, overcoming karma and doing this invocation is something that will give you the energy, because it removes the energy through the effort and brings self-discovery every time. So this karma cleansing is where we meet the throne, right? The pillar of heaven, spiritual hierarchy of the gods that are simulated with us and our higher self. So whenever I do the overcoming karma, I feel like I'm not just connecting to the Aman around us, but also I'm connecting to my higher self. And so whenever I do Egyptian magic, I always invoke, when I do my invocations or my work with the gods that I'm working with, I always try to connect to my higher self before I move forward, right? Because the higher self has that connection to the higher worlds. So I have made my way by the way of the tree of life, and I have brought myself to silence. Now I've entered into the sacred mysteries, and standing behind the throne of the day of driving back disaster, I sail forth the right and truth way. Well, tonight I want to take things further. And we may have a lot more karma than we realize, and we do. But some of which is surviving part of our past lives. So the invocation of the soul memory represents where we may have lived before as a human being. And it can also represent an non-incarnate spirit form before our human's birth. So you've heard of new souls and old souls. Well, new souls are people that may have not been human before, or may have only had a few lives. Old souls are like many masters, many lives. So this invocation of the soul memory is an ancient Egyptian ritual designed to surface those things and to put us in touch with the other fragments that are hidden in our psyche. So the three paths spoken are called the Hermetic, the Orphic, and the mystical paths. And the two pillars mentioned here are Ama, Anima, the black feminine pillar that you see in the High Priestess card of the Psyche, and its white twin, Abba, Animus, the masculine side of the self. And all of these things, this rite gives us entry to explore the Akashic records of soul memory within you. And what I love about this invocation is an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph ritual, just like the other ones we've gone through the class. So I do want to send you the hieroglyphs of these rituals. So let me write that down so I don't forget, because I will. My mind does not remember things at all. So let me see. Do you have a pen? Thanks. Invocations. Awesome. Okay. So this is the first one I want to do with you. So I know some of you are interested in exploring your past lives. And what this invocation we're going to do tonight, we're going to light our candle and say it together. Of course, when you do it, you're going to want to look at the hieroglyphs I send you, because that's the magic. The imagery is the magic. So when you're saying this invocation, look at the photos. You can say it in English, but try to say it in ancient Egypt. Okay. And you might find that your Egyptian tongue sounds pretty cool. Okay. So before we begin, I'm going to say it in English, and then I'm going to get you to say it with me in Egyptian. But what we're going to say is, I am the keeper of my Akashic records, of all which is and which shall be. Now, they believed that you could see into the future as well through the same Akashic records. So they believed you could see into the past, the present, and the future. And that's why I am the keeper of the Akashic records of all which is and which shall be. Eternity it is, and everlastingness. Oh, 3 paths and 2 pillars. Open your portals. I love that. It's like, I wish I could just like open them. So let's grab our candles. And I know we're going to be doing more than one invocation. So we're going to do our candles, but we're not going to light them right away. I want you to put these invocations into your candle. Do you have a candles? We're going to light the candle after we do this one and the invocation of the astral flight. So those 2 we're going to do together, and then you can do them anytime you want and relax. So when you do this on your own, you can do it. I like to do Egyptian magic at night. And if you try to do this at night, you might even feel a little bit of intimidation with the spirits. Okay, because the Egyptian magic is powerful. And there's times, even the last class, after I did some work, I went into the back and I was still working on it and connecting to the energies for myself. And I felt like, whoo, they were out there. So kind of try to feel what direction you feel the spirits come when you're doing this magic. You may feel the spirit come from the east, the south, the west, the north. You want to know where you feel that. And if you do feel intimidation, that is amazing. Then you have a great, powerful spirit. And then you learn how to connect with it, but make sure you hold your power. Because even though you may raise an Egyptian god, we are known as gods to them. And people don't realize that because we're human form and human spirit. But you have to remember, and some of you took the zodiac class, we are actually zodiacs. And so when we come into this realm and we are born under certain zodiac power, and our horoscope signs represent the zodiac magic and spirit that we are in the other realms. So many times the zodiacs that we have, we've gone through in past lives. So you may have been a Sagittarius for the last 1,000 of years. Every time you came down, that might be your portal of power, right? But maybe some of you have decided to be one of everything in different lives, and you come to this life and you're just fucking crazy. I'm just kidding. That would be me. I'm just kidding. I had to crack it in there, make sure you're all awake. They'll be like, I can't believe she said that. So hold your candle. And remember, whenever we do an invocation where we are raising spirits or energies or open portals, I like to hold the candle in my right hand. Okay. Or in my left hand, not your right. Left hand. We want that power to come into us. We're calling it into our being. Okay. And I just want to see what we're doing because I want to make sure, do I need to cast a circle before we do this one? Because the astral flight, then we're doing an initiation, blessing initiation. Ooh, but what is this one? Nope, they're good. I don't want to cast a circle. I want the wild spirits. Are you ready? And you're like, do I? Okay, hold that in your hands. So remember, we're doing this in Egypt. So can you hear me? Let's do it. Repeat after me. Ha, na, ah, tempt, qua, em, back, never, and new, anna, ab, into, abte, anna, amitu, neteru. And now we're going to do the opening of the soul memory. So that one we just did was the invocation. And you can do that invocation whenever you want to try astral projection, whenever you want to enter the astral realm. And according to the ancient Egyptians, we live on no less than 9 other dimensions. So they believed in these other 9 dimensions, including many which were so physical that we can only dream them, yet they remain very important in our lives. And what we just spoke can stimulate the awakening of the dreamer within the astral and the casual planes of dimensions. So that is used before sleep at night. It can trigger vivid dreams, and it can recall past lives and the ability to direct your dreams consciously. So this month, I know that we still have 2 more classes after that, or 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 more after. I want you to focus on invoking your dream state. And when we invoke our dream state, that's when we really start to communicate with the other realms. So you just said, Pana'a, Tenqua, Mbak, never, and nub, Ana, Aba, and tu, Ebtet, Anana, Amitu, Netero. And it said, may I fly, may I gather myself together like a hawk, beautiful of gold. Come to me, my heart, from the land of beginnings. May it come to me among the gods. So now we're going to do the next one. Isn't it beautiful? I think so too. The way they spoke, hey, it's like we're actually listening to it, like the words they put together. So this one was the one we said earlier, I am the keeper of my Akashic records. See, they're claiming mine, not the, because when you connect to any Akashic records, holy shit, the stuff out there that you can get, right? We want to be the keeper of ours. We are the gatekeepers of ours. Therefore, we can actually open it. So I am the keeper of my Akashic records of all which is and shall be. Eternity it is and everlastingness. Ooh, the 3 paths and 2 pillars. Open your portals. Let's do it. So let's say it in Egyptian. Repeat after me. Nak. Are. Sapu. En enti. Unen. Nehe. Pu. Hene. Teta. Ar. Aksh. Shep. Me. Tebe. Sen. Ebak. Turkey. And when you see it, you'll be able to read it. You're just repeating me, so that's okay. What I love about that is saying Ebak Turkey. or Ebak Turk. Open your portals is what that means. So make sure you write that one down, because we can open portals. We could go into a haunted house and we can say, Ebake Teke, open your portals and see what comes. Like I'm saying that and my room is just starting to get hot and hot. So I'm obviously invoking male spirit tonight. So let's light up our candle. And when we light up our candle, I want to do the Egyptian initiation rite of a blessing. So I want to light our candle in power. We've opened up the gates. I need a lighter. Whew. It was so cold before class. I put on fuzzy socks and a hoodie. Now I'm boiling. So make sure you light up your candle and you just want to look at its flame. Brett had to go get me a lighter. I really got it together today. I need to sell lighters in here. Little ones. Something funky. Thank you. Okay, let's light her up. And you want to watch the flame. Always watch the flame. Mine grew in power really quick. And then it went down in power and now it's growing again. So I'm going to put my little candle, my mini candle here. So the rite, the Egyptian rite of initiatory blessing. And you know, when I'm telling you about these rituals, we can use these rituals to invoke any of the Egyptian gods and goddesses as well, which we haven't gotten into yet in their magic. So how we can help others realize their potential and help them begin to grow mystically is a question that many people ask, like, how do I get connected to it on their path? Well, everybody's path is different, but this rite can be spoken over another person. So whether they're in the room or if you have their name written out in Egyptian alphabet and on a piece of paper on you, but traditionally they would have this person laying down. And they would address this person by name and remind their soul of who they are. And then this ritual is to help encourage self-integration. And in truth, that is all we can really do for someone else. Most of their powers of spirit are self-help only, according to the ancient Egyptians. So I want you to look at your initiation candle or your blessed candle that opened up the portals, and make sure you kind of take note on your room. If I feel an atmosphere change, I know I can move forward in my magic. If I don't feel an change in my atmosphere, then I wait. When I'm by myself, I'll wait and I'll wait until I feel my atmospheric change. And then I move on. So we can do this to help ourselves and others. And this is the Egyptian initiation blessing. And I'm going to say it in English. And then we're going to say it in Egyptian. Well, what I think is Egyptian. And I don't want feedback like, you really don't know how to speak Egyptian. I'm good. Spirit knows what we're saying and what we're trying to say. So the initiation blessing to help others realize their potential and have them grow mystically is: Hail, heart of Georgina. So we use our name or the name of the person. Hail, heart of Georgina, white crown of the statue, divine standard, thou hast cast to land on the scepter. You are the heir. Pretty interesting. So that was the summoning to realize our potential and to remind our soul of who they are. You are heir. You are the heir, actually. So look at your candle and let's say this in Egypt, because we are the heir. Okay. So it'll be ab, and then your name. Okay. So look at your candle. And I like to always make sure I have like my hands ready to receive. So we're doing an invocation. My hands are automatically like this. Ab, Georgina. And you say your name. Hetet, Entut, Aat, Aenek, Erta, En, Shet, Nek, Kshi. I mean, I think that had a little bit of a ISIS tone. So whenever we want to invoke that power, do that. Now, because Egyptian Book of the Dead, there it is written. Of course, you want to look at the hieroglyphs that we've got when you speak it, because it's about seeing it, speaking it too. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Where do I want to go? Okay, so I'm going to do, let's see, what page am I? Okay, so we're going to do another, I want to explain another rite because I love these rituals and they're so short and nice. But what I was saying is, even though you see it and say it, for me, when I'm doing it by myself, I like to say the invocation 3 times. It's just a thing. I do it that way. And maybe it's because it's a witchcraft thing and that's how I train, right? But for me, when I do it the 3rd time, I can really feel the power of it. You don't have to, though. You can say it once and know it's done. So another ancient ritual was the rite of Hieros Gamos. Hieros Gamos. And that represented, meant the sacred wedding in Greek. Okay. And the Hieros game was the unification of the 2 sides of the self. So the sacred wedding did not have to do with an actual marriage. It was the unification of the 2 sides of the self, the conscious lover and its unconscious, still-hearted beloved. And so when this rite was performed, it was believed that it stimulated the integration of these 2 sides of the self and end the separation between who you are while you're awake and who you become when you're dreaming. How cool is that? So this was to connect our conscious mind to our higher self, our divine mind. And I love that because so many people think that, when we're awake, we're running around and our higher self is just like sitting there watching us, kind of like this thing, like my hand, just witness to ourselves, this spiritual organ. But it's not. And when we're asleep, Our higher self is like out there living its life. It's got the true power of the God. Our conscious mind is asleep. They're like, finally. And when we don't sleep, our higher self is like, please, they need sleep. I need power. So the two sides of ourself and the end of the separation can reconnect us to our waking self and our dreaming self. And some people, may not believe this because you're more spiritual than others out there. You're awakened. But for those that are not awake, they are two different people. And the less spiritual you are, the less power your higher self has over you. And, a lot of people lose connection to their higher self to the point where they cut themselves off completely from it. We can lose our higher self and our connection, especially if we don't honor ourselves. So this ritual connects us. It breaks the separation of those two different minds that we work with. And it is going to draw us into our personal archetype, our netter, which was our God aspect. And so to us, this is a truly sacred marriage between the creator and the creation of our God aspect. And once we have clearly glimpsed our God aspect or our totem identity that this would invoke, or our nature, we would be able to strengthen the integration of that by performing a ritual that came after, the rite of totem integration, which I think is pretty cool. So we did the blessing of the rite. Now let's do the sacred union of our two selves. This can be performed before bed, or it can be actually performed upon awakening. It's also a great time to do during the summer solstice, right? Because the sacred union of the masculine and the feminine. So the rite of Gamos, I almost went into Helios. I love that god. Okay, the rite of Gamos is, O never setting stars, the ways I have opened, I am the eldest born of unformed matter. My soul is the gods, making to stand up my throne. Tantric, arise for myself, or still heart, shine for myself. O still heart, stand alongside your image, rejoice in it. You are fastened together. So they would want to fasten it together. So let's do this. In Egyptian. And then I'm going to get into this. I think is that it for the invocations today. No, I have to do the next one. Oh, how can I just end? Okay, so let's do this one in English and then we're going to move on to the next one. So, or we're not doing it in English. We're doing it in Egyptian. So repeat after me. Let me see if I can bring that closer. There you go. Oh, there we go. Okay. So look at your candle, feel your space, take note on the atmosphere. I like to breathe a couple times and repeat after me. Ah, Kshnu, Saku, Uat, Apna, Ah, Nuk, Aru, Pot, Baha, Pu, Netaru, Sitche, Tet, M, Tetetu, Abenk, Nek, Urtu, Ab, Pishk, Nek, Nertu, Ab, Tek, Tu, Her, Kesk, Ek, Anv, Thesu, Tu. So when you bind someone, you are fastened. Thesu, Tu. And take note on how you feel. And some people may be like, you know what? I don't really feel anything, but I heard it. I saw it. Pay attention to your sleep. Anytime you do an invocation, that invocation is alive until the law of function brings its manifested results to you. It creates a cycle. Invocation of divine entity was so important to the ancient Egyptians. We do not have to wait until we die to become a divine or spiritual being. That was their teaching. And this rite actually completes the rite of Amen that we started. So this rite, the invocation of divine identity, it identified you as Amen. And this rite identifies Amen as really you. So the two rituals can be worked together as a ceremony. And the difference may not be apparent at the moment, but it will be clear after you performed this rite and as it works its way to you. So we want to call in our divine entity. Remember, the ancient ones believed in power. They believed that they were calling in the powers of the gods to create heaven on earth. And so this rite says, if we are in heaven or on earth, in the south, or in the north, or in the west, or in the east, I am the only one in your bodies. I am the pure one of I, not shall I die a second time. My moment is in your bodies. All forms are my habitation. I am he who is not known. The rosy-faced beings are with me. I am unveiled. And what I loved about that is that pure of the eye, I shall not die a second time. But what about my moment is in your bodies? All forms are my habitation. So that speaks a few different things. One, that anybody can do this ritual and the spirit will unveil itself in any of those forms. Or two, we can call in that form of habitation within any of our bodies and consciousness that we work with. So for me, when I'm doing magic, I like to tap into the different consciousness that my magic will work in. So if I need to attract something that emotionally makes me desire it, okay, like a vacation, I'm going to do my magic a certain way, a certain distance of where I'm sitting, right? So I would do my magic 2 to 4 feet away from me, my body, so that I am influencing a certain consciousness to me. And we can do that. We can call presence into any of the consciousnesses we want. That's what I love about learning about the chakras and the energy centers and the 12 auric bodies. because it taught me how to tap into those spirits and where I can send spirit to or get rid of spirit from. So let's do and call in your divine identity. So again, look at your candle, take note on the room. And I know I'm doing this simple with a candle. Of course, when you're doing this on your own, you want to have a candle going or incense. I love to burn copal. Frankincense is good to burn. So any type of Egyptian herbs you can have going as an incense. Musk is awesome to use to invoke spirit as well. So for me, candle, incense, I usually have a drink around me because I know even though it's like a tea, whatever I'm doing on my table is invoking that power. So just my tea while we're doing this, I'm going to be drinking this later and it's going to feel like, I'm going to feel like an Egyptian god manifesting into form for midnight. Brett's going to be in trouble. So let's look at let's feel our space. And I like to actually feel my atmosphere. And when you feel your atmosphere, you'll realize that that is one of the number one things that changes when you're doing a reading for someone or when someone comes into your place. Okay, my atmosphere in my store responds when people walk in the door. My atmosphere either runs from them and I can feel a little bit of movement, or it like embraces them or comfort. Like I can feel what the energy, how my energy responds to it. And it's amazing. So you always want to pay attention before you do these invocations. And invocations, you want to feel something. So look at your candle and let's call our divine self. Repeat after me. Let's get Egyptian tongue going. Ana, ana, ne, peta, enta, rezu, inch, eta, melt, amenta, me, ata, an equa, am, kishaten, nak, mb, m, mat, anmita, m, nem, ata, m, kishaten, aru, m, kishanata, naka, rekek, eksh, tesaru, rasen, ra, nak, umph, naka, umph. I'm sorry. Oh, and that's okay if you laugh at yourself, if it feels funny or weird or sounds funny, right? It's all power, higher power. Laughter is higher power. So when I was saying nakank, nakank, that means I am the unveiled. It doesn't matter if you're not saying it right. I guarantee you, if an Egyptian heard me, they would probably be laughing. It doesn't matter, right? Our higher self, as we're looking at it, as we're reading it, knows exactly what we're saying. Okay, so Akashic records are part of our higher self. They know exactly what we're doing. So just like me feeling funny saying it to you guys, it's okay if you feel that way by yourself too. Okay. And you will until you feel comfortable with it. Right. When I first started doing my spell work, I felt like I was like, this fantasy, like whatever. We just go where we need to until it becomes real with you. Right. So now, as we finished the rite of the Hieros Gamos, which unified you with your inner God aspect, our netter nature. Now, how to love, right? So this next ritual is part of what we just finished. And it actually activates the moon mirror, which in the ancient times was called Shaddai El Chea. And it meant to bring God as your spouse. Ooh, I want Horus to you in the netter form. You were created to share that tantric partnership and to consummate your union as a lover. So when you call down the moon, be ready for its power. So many people have heard, call down the moon, drawing down the moon. Well, the first one that was ever created was this one. So this is good to do, full moon, new moon, right? Whenever we want to connect to the moon power, so days of the moon, Monday, times of the moon. And when we do this, we connect to the God force, which is very mighty, but it will never release us from their embrace. So remember, once you connect to a God, that connection is there all the time. You can summon, Poseidon or Helios or Thoth and see your connection. It happened. Yes, you think it's done. When we connect to divine powers and spirits, that connection is always there. So it never releases us from their embrace. And that is not a negative thing. That is a very powerful and very positive thing. I love having an army behind me. And with certain situations that go on in my life, whether it's chaotic or a blessing, I can tell by the spirit what has come forward. And once you connect and work with different gods, not just these Egyptian ones that we're talking about, but any of them, you'll be able to feel when they come forward. So this one you've heard about in the circle we call the shining ones. Well, this operates and calls the moon, the Shaddai. And what we're going to say is, hail, only one, not holy. Hail, only one, shining from the moon. Hail, only one, shining from the moon. Bring forth gods, those whom I am the beloved. Hail, soul, mighty of valor. Verily, I am here. I have come. I have hidden myself with you, creating sacredness in private. And of course, when you see this in Egyptian and you do it yourself, it will definitely activate this. So let's say it in Egyptian. And again, if you sound funny, it's okay. Ah, ue, ubentem, ahe, ah, ue, psht, ahe, pert, natural, pu, nuk, Mary V, ba, te put, mek, I, cua, amenua, ame, ten, amen, two, naturu, sikru. So sacredness, natiro. Okay. So those are the rites we're going to do today. Next class, which is tomorrow, we're going to do the rite of healing. And the rite of healing can be performed on ourselves and others. And then we are going to do, we didn't do the totemism, the totemic nature of human life. Oh, do I do that now? Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to do this last ritual, the rite of healing tonight, because when we meet next class, I want to go into the totemic natures of human life with the Egyptians. So let's do this one. And then we finished a whole section. So when it comes to healing, the ancient Egyptians believed that this rite that we're going to do could be performed for ourselves or other people. And it would help restore the natural youthful health of the body, mind, and soul after injury, illness, or trauma. Okay? And I need this. And because this rite implies that one is a guardian of the self-crackling egg, which the ancient Egyptians believed was the original creator, it will have little effect unless this is spoken by someone who has integrated the invocation of divine identity. So you must do the invocation of the divine identity that we just did earlier. We just finished. And that is, then you can call in the power of the healing. So I want you to try doing the invocation of the divine identity with this one when you do a healing for the next person or yourself, next time you hurt yourself or you need to do a healing. Okay. Now we did the invocation of the divine identity already. You spoke it in Egypt. So Egyptian. So let's do it. Let's do the rite of the healing. So just so you know what we would say if you were going to do a healing for yourself and something happened, I would do it, both of them together. And it was, if ye are born in heaven or on earth, in the south or in the north or in the west or in the east, I am the only one in your bodies. I am the pure one of I, nor shall I die a second time. My moment is in your bodies. All forms are my habitation. I am he who is not known. The rosy-faced beings are with me. I am the unveiled. I watch and guard egg that of the crackler great, it growth. I grow. I liveth. I live. It smelleth air. I smell air, making secret all forms, is opened my hiding place again, hath fallen light within, the darkness on the body, as beautiful as a god. That was their healing invocation. Okay, so I'm going to now try to say it in Egyptian. You can listen in one and out the other or repeat after me. But of course, you want to see if your candle responds. Now, sometimes when we do this, maybe your candle hasn't responded and it's been nice and strong this whole time, but I've had quite a bit of flickers. Egyptian magic does make the candle flicker quite a bit when it is dealing with the south energy. So watch it with this one. Okay, we're going to do it all together. Ana, nipeta, and ta, resu, melt, acha, melt, ementa, me, apta, ahekwa, ksheten, nak, mb, mat, meta, nem, ata, kshten, ara, M, ksht, a, nut, rakesh, x, f, tisuru, rasen, era, nuk, anvi, sana, sata, en, nekek, rats, rata, eshk, eshka, setes, nevu, seteta, nevum, seta, aru, anu, tafeta, sepne, kashu, m, kishna, kekwa, her, shet, never, netter. Whew, I feel Egyptian. So that is the rituals. So all three of those rituals, I'm going to send you the Egyptian, the way it is written in the ancient days, but also what you just experienced with me. And it would be good to put a couple of those together, because you do add some of those, like the healing one and the union. So you can mix and blend some of those invocations to create what it is that you want. So listen to this again and then see what you would like to put together, or when you see the booklet, put together some of these invocations and create your own. So next class, we're going to go into the gods of individuality and the totems and the totemic natures. And I really like that, because this is where we're actually going to learn. Let me see where the influence, where the rituals are. Okay. So we'll get into that tomorrow, but I really want to start it now because we get to start with different goddesses, like the cow goddess. Okay, let me see what I'm going to go into now. So I believe you would have seen that photo I sent of the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Ra, right? Now, you saw the two with the Ankh, right, in the middle. So when you watch that, when you just look at that image that I sent, a lot of times you'll see them come together. So the Ankh and the eyes will move together and become one image. And that practice in that form is a form of meditation to connect to the powers around you, to the power of Ra, power of Horus. So harmony and beauty, Nefer, right, plays a fundamental role in our mystical experience with cosmic unity. And Egyptian art, well, their Egyptian scribe, was made to conform to an initiation into these cosmic principles, or the archetypes. So they would use astronomical, math, geometrics, harmonic principles in nature to reveal man, or it would reveal the hidden aspect of the spirit. So we can reveal ourselves as human, but we can also reveal ourselves as spirit, even though our spirit is hidden, right? So the agent that brings about the cosmos, that brings order out of chaos in nature. Well, this discovery is the original revolution of the ideas of Isis removing her veil. And it is nature, the great mother goddess, who does so. And behind the veil, or Maya, is a radiant light. And this wisdom is self-knowledge. That's what the radiant light is. And so no other culture has left such an advanced understanding of the vital principles of the nature as the pharaohs in Egypt. So the sacred art that we see, the fraction part, we don't get to see it all now, but it is a description of the universe and man undergoing the process of cosmification or spiritualization. And so when we take a look at the eye set, our eyes on unity or sameness, when it comes to the pharaonic terms, this requires the recuperation of the fractured vision of the moon eye or the lunar eye. And this lost eye of Horus is recomposed by Thoth, the nectar, which symbolizes the intelligence of the supreme God, Aman. And it is this lunar vision that enables holistic and integral contemplation that brings us the vision of what is whole, what is complete, or the archetype. It allows for the vision of our psychic and spiritual dimensions of life, right? What is hidden, Aman. And so we can speak of the vision of ideas, the primordial universe that structures reality, are seen as the true gods and the work within us. And so this vision is impaired in man by the very fact of when we were born, of birth into our natural figure, our incarnation. And that is why Seth is said to steal or injure the eye, because sensorial and fractionated conscious, our solar vision, inhabits the perception of universe archetypes, or the ideas, which is lunar vision. So I'm going to get into this a little bit more. So to regain the lunar eye means that one regains a cognitive power, and the power which allows recomposition of the eye of Horus is Thoth. So the solar eye is the right eye in cosmic man. And it is related to analytical thinking, which is the contemplation of the part, or the incomplete aspect of reality. The incomplete. No wonder we don't get the full picture. Okay. Okay. So, where was I? The incomplete. Okay, so this vision of the other is associated to the left hemisphere of the brain, and to the sensation experience of the world based on differentiation. So it's based on differences. Now, I mentioned in the astrological symbol, it is mysterious. And then we talked about arithmetic values within the eyes, right? And we got to 63, 64. Well, remember that this calculation that I showed you with those degrees are all related to a myth where Horus is trying to revenge the death of his father. So he loses his lunar eye in a battle against Seth. And the loss of the left eye in the Egyptian mythology represents as a loss of vision, but more specifically, a loss of holy vision, which allows for the reunification or reconciliation of the two opposites in unity. So the value in the one and the astrological power is that perfect balance between its relationship to I or unity. And in this old ancient philosophical language, it is the symbol for the consciousness that brings reconciliation of opposites by the power of unity, or I. So the reconciliation of Horus and Seth brings back a vision, a holy vision, a double vision. It was both lunar and solar, but the only divine power, or netter, capable of bringing this forth is Thoth, the wisdom god. So now these two minds, or two hearts, or two eyes, are related to the studies of the modern studies of brain functions, of the right and the left hemisphere. That came from the Egyptian days. How cool is that? And the right and lunar hemisphere represents the holy vision. This science of human cognitive functions has been known by the world's religions for ages, right? They used this. So let's, for one example, from the right hemisphere in mysticism, Lord Krishna in Hinduism, or Hinduism. I almost call it Hoodooism. Wrong culture. Okay. That'd be so funny. The royal peacock's feather represents the supreme being with eyes seeing in all directions, right? The Egyptian priests, the Sem priests, they used a long tuft of hair that extended from the right hemisphere of their brain. You know, those people that had the off to the side, that was it. And similar symbolism as, yeah, you could wear yours to the right now tomorrow. And the semi priests, which were often depicted in the secret rites of ancient Egyptian, showed this tuft of hair in broad daylight. And yet its association to the cognitive functions cannot be revealed by the inconsiderate observer, which neglects the power of the religious symbolism. So it's similar to Native Americans in their braids or their long hair. And the Hindu association of the solar and lunar eyes in the Prishna, or cosmic being, is basically identical to the ancient Egyptian mythology, which replaces them in Horus. But what needs to be considered here is the sacred science of cosmic man, and why the eyes are said to be the sun and the moon. And it goes beyond a poetic expression. While the function of vision is being brought forward in appearance under the solely lunar analogy of eyes, it is the reality that it symbolizes of mental or psychic contemplation with both hemispheres of the brain. The eye is the only nerve that comes out to the surface of the body, the only one we can observe in its living function. It blossoms into a sphere filled with white crystalline liquid. It is sensitive to light, to the effect of fire, and reacts to colors. It is the sense that informs us directly of volume and that demonstrates the function of intelligence through the crossing. There being a unification at the same time as an exchange between the two eyes. So the eye is the sens du jour, that is the visible sun. The right eye is the left side of the brain in man, sensitive to that which is positive, it's affirmative, while the left eye is related to the bright or to the right side of the brain and is sensitive to that which is negative. So there is a crossing between the left and the right eyes and the left and the right lobes of the brain. And the center of this is the optical nerve, which is an empty channel that conducts the vital nervous energy. And these are already sufficient reasons to motivate us to use the eye as a symbol, among other things, the capacity of volume. So the animal, let's say with optical brain, is the bird, and among the birds, the falcon. And in Egypt, that corresponded best to the array of noble qualities that can be symbolized as eye. So the two eyes are two luminaries. One is solar, the other is lunar in function. And both eyes nevertheless belong to the sun or to the morning sun. The right is to the evening sun. Yeah, the bridge between portals. And wait until you see the diagram I want to show you. I wish I could show it to you right now. But the crossing of these two functions between the eyes and the brain accompanies a well-known fact that the motor functions of the left hemisphere of man are regulated by the right hemisphere and vice versa. The crossing itself, as far as the eye and sight is concerned, takes place in the optic chamber, well, chiasm, the X shape, which you're going to see in my diagram eye here, which is placed before the pituitary gland, our third eye. So the crossing between the eyes and cognitive functions of the hemispheres of the brain are symbolized by the hieroglyphs, and you'll see it. So when it comes to the book of coming forth by day, so let me make sure I write that down, that I talked about it in part 3. Sorry, book of coming forth by day. Brett, can you write that down? My pen doesn't work. Thank you. There is one particular use for this, and it is the use of the eyes and the crossing of the eyes. And in this, the two eyes of Horus, which is of interest to us, in the papyrus of Nebseni. Okay, so this is another sacred papyrus. It's called the Papyrus of Nebseni. And I don't know if I can find a copy. I'm going to try to see what I can find a copy, but it reads, and this is what we want out of it. Hail, beautiful face, Lord of Sight, bound by Patak Sakar, raised high by Anubis, to whom Shu has given the supports. Beautiful face, in whom the gods are. Your right eye is the night, the evening, boat mist, and your left eye is the day, the morning, boat meant. And you'll see the writing of that. So in Egyptian magic, the day or the morning boat was related to the left eye, and it represented the course of Ra from sunrise to noon. So what happens in your life from sunrise to noon? While the night or the evening boat represented the right eye, and it represented the course of Ra from noon to sunset. So I want you to take note in the next 3 days. Where is yours? Are you more powerful when it comes to the morning boat or the evening boat? Okay. And you'll see where your life is more active, and you'll know what you can tap into. Okay. So are you Ra or Horus? Or yeah, Ra or Horus right now. So this what we've discussed, our head and our eyes and this cross chamber is going on, and it's protecting our little third eye that's down there in the center of our peanut. Well, this is called the cosmic dome. And this cosmic dome, which is our cranium, is the image on Earth. And it is split in half like hemispheres of the brain by a moment of midday. So midday is the most important. And I think we talked about that in the last class, right? That midday and the circuit runs from the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere, from the left to the morning sun and the right to the evening sun. And the direction of evolution is thought from sunrise to sunset is for the initiate to be made to face the south. Okay. So we are talking about and implying mentalities of a way of thinking. But in reality, all humans have both the Western and the Eastern mentalities, the Western and the Eastern cultures, right? They impose a priority for the way we conceive the world over another person. And truth is found by using our two eyes instead of one. And this is something that the ancient Gnostics, even the teaching of Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas, talked about, but it all connected from the ancient Egyptians. So the Western and the Eastern worlds are linked, and they were divided by the meridian of the Nile River. And the Nile River was what symbolically divides and bonds the Eastern and Western mentalities. So it represented the crossing point where two paths were interconnected. Now, the pituitary gland is the physical organ which represents our psychic center in the body. So we may feel it here, but it's actually like center of our brain back there. It's like the center of our little brain. And this organ, so there's our psychic brain, our psychic site in the center of our body. The name for that in the Egyptian days was Atetbot. A-T-E-T, not Atit, Atet. Atetbot. Okay. And in the text, and it is written with 4 hieroglyphs. Okay. And I'm going to try to attempt that for you so you can see the 4 hieroglyphs that it represents. But we may appreciate that the left eye, the one that is Horus, loses to Seth in the myth, which is symbolized by the right functions of the brain. And this is invoked by the symbolism of the crossing. And actually, the symbolism of the crossing is the fish. Like, you know, the Christian fish symbol? I mean, they just got to take it all, don't they? Pardon me. But the fish, which represented Atetbot, right, loses power and is invoked by the symbolism of the fish, the crossing. And in the name of this, carries the lunar eye. So the crossing carries the lunar eye, which means, some of you are like, what? The eye of Horus that is lost in Egyptian mythology is the left eye. The lunar eye, and refers to the right eye, is vision or holy contemplation. So the moon is the reflection of the solar light for our world. And it allows us to see in the night. And during the time of night, which is incarnation or natural consciousness. Now the spiritual sun Ra remains invisible and can only be perceived indirectly through the reflection of the moon. And so the very waxing and waning of the moon is very significant visually when it comes to the cyclic life that is opposed to eternal and immutable light of the sun god Ra. So in the myth, Horus and Seth later symbolize the power or effect of the incarnation, the incubation of consciousness in a sensorial or mental psychic reality. So this is described by the Assyrian dismemberment. For consciousness, although it's immortal, has become fractions. Think about that. It's pretty cool. Just that there, right? Has become fractions, has been broken up. So the power of Seth to impair Horus by taking his lunar eye demands that the reconstitution or the stolen functions in man. Seth has the eye or vision in his grasp until Horus is able to recover it through the power of Thoth. And if it were not for the power of Thoth, the battle between Horus and Seth would not come to an end. And the soul is destined to the Assyrian cycle, which is reincarnation. So we cannot fail to point out how important it is that Thoth, the netter, representing God's intelligence, is the one that allows for the reconciliation of the powers of Horus and Seth. A little bit of history there. So this is not something that man can achieve by himself, is what it means. And for this image of the supreme being of the gods, or Netero, are the cosmic functions living within him. And to control them, he must return to his innermost origin and unity, which is also representing the invocations we talked about. Okay. So when we invoke the best vision, this is repeated in spiritual cultures around the world. The spoken of the words, we are dealing with problems. Okay, so when we're dealing with problems with a root in spiritual and religious science, not just natural science, there's high standards of knowing that is beyond the psychological that we can tap into. And for this reason, the meaning and value of the High of Horus, or Eye of Horus, can only be grasped in its original religious language, which it belongs to. So let's just say the moment of conjunction between the sun and the moon, 4 moments of eclipses and the new moons. In this moment, it is symbolized as the god. And that god was Khonsu in ancient Egypt. And it was a divinity in which we were able to connect to and work with. We were entitled to. The Ka of his mother, the eclipse, as the coming together of the sun and the moon, is significant. And in the ancient days, the ability of women was to produce the eclipse by the use of magic. Well, you'd think it would be backwards. We would use the magic to produce the powers of the eclipse, but we would produce the eclipse by the use of magic. That's how they saw it back then. So the ability in women was to produce an eclipse by the use of magic. And there were ancient occults that had to do this, that were known to do this. One of known was the ancient cult to the goddess Hecate, a word that's no longer borrowed, that's no longer from Egyptian. If you look at Hecate, you'll see many other religions and cultures claim her. However, it's been borrowed from the Egyptian Heka, which meant magic. And in most books of Egyptian magic, the mythology of the women was said that those who practiced magic would lose their sight or suffer a paralysis of body. And for now, let us observe that the moment of a full moon, which is in opposition of sun and moon, is significant in this magic, referring to human consciousness, because it is at the exact moment of the full moon that both luminaries are crossed in the horizon. The Eket and the horizon, or the spirit world in itself, is at a crossing point of heaven and earth. And both sun and moon are fully illuminated on the horizon. And this is quite significant. This fully spiritual time can produce a fully spiritual vision that has both the solar and the lunar contemplation and guidance with itself invoked, can create mysteries. So in the sacred hymn, which you would see in the Book of the Dead that I sent you, so the sacred hymn to Osiris, they call upon him who is hidden in the arms of the sun. And on the 13th of the month, okay, and they would do this on the 13th, they would celebrate the birthday of the Eye of Horus. And at the time when the moon and the sun are in perfectly straight lines, since they regard not only the moon, but also the sun as the eye and light of Horus. So the recovery of the Eye of Horus is the main theme of the north front of the pyramid. And so there's these pyramid texts that represent chambers within the pyramid. So there is Unas, I think it is, UNAS pyramid. So the chamber of Unas period, or the pyramid. Here, in this, there was a solution to a problem that is natural to man. And it is that the problem of dysfunction was provoked by excess or defeat of a given hemisphere of mental activity. How cool is that, right? Like that just gives me chills. So that is a sacred text in the Unas period. And it's true. I see it all the time in myself and people that I help. The solution to a problem that is natural to man. And it is a problem of the dysfunction provoked by excess. Of course, whenever we have excess of anything, what happens? It gets defect. It's a defect. It becomes defective. Or the defect of a hemisphere. So if we're working too much on our left hemisphere and not on our right, it will create dysfunction too, right? So this relation is enough to see that we are speaking of vision in a metaphorical sense, which actually means a state of consciousness. And again, we point to the fact the function of repairing the lunar or holy vision is pertained and performed by an act of divine knowledge, TOS, the cognitive act of seeing with both hemispheres of mind, which only occurs when one does not cancel the human fusion with their unity, right? Being personified as a supreme being, right? So as far as the psyche or mental order of the Eye of Horus, it is demanded that we can achieve the balance or the equilibrium of vision where one does not deny all metaphysical and divine qualities of the universe by an excess of analytical and sensorial consciousness. Nor does one deny the manifest reality of the physical or material consciousness by total holistic idealism. So it is a goal to work with your higher and lower minds. You know, and many people don't realize this, but when we are invoking full moon power and we're doing ritual and full moon power, we are feeding energy to our higher self. That is a celebration to give our higher self invocation and power into our life. New moons represent our lower self. So whenever we practice new moon magic or intention setting, our lower selves go into power during the new moon, right? So we have a higher and we have a lower. And then we have us, and here we are in the middle world, invoking our lower or invoking our higher. So it's pretty interesting that the reason why we do that is for our consciousness. So I want to take it just a little further. So just to make final comparison, the Norse myth of Odin, the legendary king of Asgard, tells us that the great king of the gods traded an eye in return for divine knowledge, and that the archetype is rather quite interesting, as it's always a question of knowing and seeing, but repeatedly associated to the myth which describes the loss of an eye, or in this case, the sacrifice of a vision in order to achieve a complete or holy vision, which grants divine wisdom and kingship. Now that alone, that one little bit that I spoke of, has a lot of power when it comes to magic. Because when we do want to invoke a higher vision, we do have to get rid of a lower. So when I'm dealing with something and it's like a surprise and I haven't done cards on it and a chaos hit, I go and look for my guidance. I go gain my holy vision because I know it can be granted to me. So any question marks, we can actually sacrifice that question mark for the answer. That's the way I see it. Sacrifice the question mark for the answer. So one thing I do want to cover is the catechist, okay, or the snakes. Let's talk about, because the serpents are so holy when it comes to Egyptian magic. You're going to see snakes everywhere, but there's a particular one. And this is where the male serpent is bitten by the female serpent. And then the female serpent is bitten by the male serpent. The heavens are enchanted. So this is actually from an ancient pyramid text that is written in a carving. And it is this: The male serpent is bitten by the female serpent. The female serpent is bitten by the male serpent. The heavens are enchanted. The earth is enchanted. These are the two knots of elephantine, which are in the mouth of Asaurus, which have been knotted by Horus in the spinal column. So everyone knows the catechist, the symbol on the ambulance with the two snakes. Well, those two snakes are the male and the female that we're talking about. And those snakes represent the Kundalini. So many of you have heard Kundalini yoga, that's Eastern tradition, but I'm using Kundalini because it's something that we've all heard of, right? So the Kundalini represents the electromagnetic energy of the masculine and feminine, which runs up our spine and connects each one of our chakras to the other, right? So there is one for an example, okay? And this is, I'm just using it because like I'm doing it. So when we do traveling to connect to the fairy realms, right? I have a summer solstice thing coming up. We're going to do some shamanic drumming, magic mushrooms, and we're going to go into the underworld. Well, when we do that, when we cross over into that realm, right? We have to move our Kundalini energy, those serpents, from our root to our heart. And once we're able to combine and activate the electromagnetic energy from our root chakra to our heart chakra, the portal to other dimensions opens. And that is why the heart chakra is the boundary of our human and spirited body. So from the heart chakra, everything above it is divine. And from the heart chakra, everything below it is considered to be middle world and underworld. Okay. So from this, okay, when they intertwined these two snakes, this fine lining was casted. They would cover the pharaoh. So what is that? Tutankhamun? How do you say that? Tutankhamun? You know, that Egyptian pharaoh dude that's dead. You know what I mean? To the little Tutankhamun, okay? His skull cap, right, was actually carved with these serpents. And it represented the polarities of spirit. And the two snakes actually represent not just male and female, but they represented Seth and Horus and what is active in the hemispheres. How interesting is that? So Thoth was giving onks, or the onk, okay, to Pharaoh in the temple of Setai. And we noticed that there was two staffs, one of papyrus and the other a lotus with a bulb. And the staffs both have serpents intertwined on them, and each of which in turn wear a white and red crown. Well, the link to the red and white represents the Kundalini, the bindu of Kundalini Tantra, which is described. So we did the symbolism, right? If your right eye causes you to stumble, cover it, gauge it out, throw it away. It's better for you to lose one of your body than for the whole body to be thrown into hell. That actually, what I just read was a teaching of Jesus from the Christian gospel. Okay, and then another one that Jesus said, I have to say, when you make the two into one, because he is referring to the eyes and the function of man. Jesus said to them, when you make the two into one, and when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and when you make male and female, When you make eyes in place of an eye, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image, then you will enter. How interesting is that? But those two things that I shared with you represent the Christian gospel. However, their teaching is the right eye is mentioned and a possible cause for stumbling because of the principle of crossing that I talked about. And so it's understood to be the solar consciousness related to the left brain as the whole body that is spoken entirely of our being, not only our physical aspect, but the whole temple of man, our bodies, right? And it was taught, don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's spirit dwells in your mind? Don't you realize that your body is the temple of the human spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself. Now, all of that, which was written in the Bible, represented the left hemisphere of the brain, symbolized by the right and the analytical and the masculine and the solar vision, which also penetrates and dissects in order to make apparent what is different, right? The other, the judgment. Man only sees division and difference through this eye and leads him into alienation from the religious experience of unity in the gods. So the solar masculine part of ourselves is a polarization of spirit. Our daytime serves as that as well. We create a sensorial awareness. We become imaginative. Our abstract conceptual experiences of the world, right? They're being incited. Think about all of the things we're creating with our two eyes, the divine nature of things. So our vision brings a delusion of material and sensual reality as a single day and whole day of reality is formed. Like, it's pretty interesting. Think about how much that changes with our moods. And yet every time we wake up, we're in a different consciousness. How many of you wake up and feel like you're in the same place as yesterday? We're not, but we may feel and think that way. So our natural blindness is best expressed by the concept that the great illusion of our sensorial and mental and psychic world and the differentiation is what lacks unity. Right? Like the excess, the solar vision that has all the motivation, ideas, goals in our human life for the purpose of our gratification and mental comfort. It is, though, when you say it like that, right? It's like, the things that I want, it's totally gratification. Part of our wholeness. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you can see where people have formed ideologies of all of this, right? So remember, our lunar eye, our moon eye, is our unified consciousness. It's our right brain, and it's active in our spiritual thinking. When we chant, when we meditate, when we pull cards, when we're doing spell work, when we're doing any type of synchronized activity with each other, or if we're just listening to music, all of this aspect of spirit is sensitive to our harmony and our beauty, the niffer. And that energy creates a mentality that allows for our perception of the inner world, our most unconscious psychic realm. And this is connected to our creative imagination, our fantasies, right? The things that we allow to form, the contemplations and the experiences that we are experiencing because of the solar vision that we lived. We poured it into our world, into our sense organs. And then it's later activated through our lunar right hemisphere, our lunar vision, our state of awareness, which we must take care of. We cannot neglect it, or else the course of learning as psychic beings goes into darkness. So this has been huge when it comes to our psychic symbolism of the Eye of Horus. It is very important to work with your psychic abilities. And if you don't, you go into darkness. But we also have dual vision, the unity of the solar and lunar. And this represents our highest aims, what your mental mind wants and what you can get your higher self to want as well, right? The spiritual vision, the highest spiritual vision in our life. And the ancient Egyptian gods associated themselves with the lunar aspect of vision. Which also reminds me, and I know it's not Egyptian, but it's Hindu, but the Lord Shiva was associated to the lunar aspect of vision. And Shiva performed the famous Nataraja, which was a dance in the ring of fire. And it was one of the most famous images of Hinduism, where the diva poses one leg over the body of a dwarf, representing ignorance. So Shiva is known as the destroyer of illusion. And this destruction of ignorance is performed by the fire, the Agni. So in ancient times, fire was often the element associated to vision through divine knowledge. And it was said, he who observes in action, and action in inaction, he is enlightened among men. He is a true power and is united. And so he realizes the totality of action, karma, correctly. He whose projects are of greed and whose actions are burned in fire of knowledge, he is considered wise by the learned. I don't know, I kind of think that's a little badass. So just as the blazing fire reduces everything to ashes, O Haruna, so Arjuna, the fire of knowledge reduces to ashes all of karma. So there is nothing in this world that will purify like knowledge. He who becomes perfected in his knowledge in time knows the Aman, the unknown. How interesting is that? So let me see, where do I want to go? I think I wanted to do a little bit on the symbology, because we did the scarab. Let me just go back. I gotta find my thing. Hey, don't you dare. Leaves class, go get a drink or himself. I want to. Okay, so let's see. Let me find my No, I'm just confused. Was that in the Egyptian Book of the Dead that I gave you? Or where was that? How did I get to that? Oh, my third eye, talking about it all. Let me see if this was it. Yeah, Eye of Horus. We did all that. Nope, that's where I just was. Ugh. Okay, there's one more thing I want to do before we go. Okay, maybe I'll look at Bridge Between Soft Spots and Babies is open. Yeah, exactly. That is. It's very spiritual. Both hemispheres used and psychic abilities are stronger. Yes. Especially if you can integrate your vision into your life, right? Which is what we do when we're practicing our magic. Thank you. Let me see. I'm just going to get to. No, we talked about the scarab, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did we do this? We didn't do the collar of gold. Let me see. I gotta see where we ended up. The amulet of Tet. I think we don't think we did that. Let's do that. No, I think we did the buckle. I wish I can remember the amulet of the buckle. Let's just do it anyway in case. So you'll need, I'm going to use a piece of paper so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, we only have 10 minutes. So the amulet of the buckle. I don't know if I can draw this thing. Let me try. I think I do remember trying to draw this one class. Okay, I think I got it good here. Of course, when you see it professionally done, not drawn by me, it'll look better. Okay, amulet. Can you see that? Okay, see that symbol there? It kind of looks like a person. Well, that is, you'll see that is the amulet of the buckle. And this amulet I'm showing you represents the buckle of Isis. So that's why I was trying to make it look almost like almost like that 8, the infinity symbol, but then into a little floating ghost. I don't know how to describe it. So this one that I'm showing you, okay, used to be, what do I have, private stuff on there? Someone's phone number. Whose phone number is that? All right, don't call that number. Okay, here, there it is. Okay. So this amulet that you see is the buckle of Isis, and it was usually made out of carnelian or red jasper or even red glass. So red in color. And sometimes it was made with gold, but it represented the chapter in the Book of the Dead, okay, which was frequently inscribed on when they were doing different funeral rites and rites. So it reads, and what this meant and what it reads is the blood of Isis, the strength of Isis, the words of power of Isis shall be mighty to act as powers to protect this great and divine being and to guard him from him that would do unto him, that would do unto him anything that he holdeth in abomination. But before the buckle was attached And they used to attach this buckle to the neck of the deceased when they died, where it was ordered to be placed, actually. And it had to be dipped in water in which oncom flowers were steeped. So I think that's how you spell it. Oncom flowers. And they use that with, they would dip all onks into those oncom flowers. And then the words of the buckle was given and it was recited over it. So of course we don't have those buckets. Wow, look at the glow on my paper here. Okay, anything bright and shiny. So if we draw this, draw it in red, and then we can put the words over it. Okay. So the amulet, this amulet was brought to the deceased or to the spirits of deceased, or, and it represented the protection of the blood of Isis and her words. And it was to be remembered that she raised the dead of Osiris by meanings of her own power and words. And there's a legend to the effect that she smote the sun god Ra with severe sickness by the magical power which she possessed. Another object of the buckle was to give deceased access to every plane in the underworld and to enable him to have one hand towards the heaven and one hand towards the earth. So this symbol, the buckle of Isis, has been a very powerful amulet that represents as above, so below, and the blood of Isis. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can grab a little. There we go. I got a little picture of it. There. Okay. So the other amulet I wanted to talk about was the amulet of Tet. And it looks like a lighthouse. So this one is easier for me to draw. So it's intimidating to draw when you've got artists on here. Okay. 3. So there it is. See how it looks like a lighthouse with 3 lines over it? So that is the amulet of Tet. And I actually did pretty good. So this amulet actually represents the tree trunk in which the goddess Isis concealed the dead body of her husband. And the 4 crossbars represent the 4 cardinal points. It became a symbol of the highest religious importance to the Egyptians. And at the setting up of the Tet at Busiris, this symbolized the body of Osiris. And it was one of the most major symbolisms that they used in all of the ceremonies that had to do with the worship of Osiris. So the Tet represents neither the table or what some has thought is associated with fasting. So table or fasting, there's been, or both, right? But this symbol, which, where did it go? There it is. So the symbol of Tet in the Book of the Dead reads, And here's the meaning of it. Rise up, O Osiris. Thou hast thy backbone, O still heart. Thou hast the fastenings of thy neck and back, O still heart. Place thyself upon the mummy of Ani, the scribe, lying on a bier, assisted by Isis, Anubis, the 4 children of Horus, the Ashabti figure, the soul, the Tet. And by thy base I put water beneath thee, and I bring unto thee a Tet of gold, and thou mayest rejoice therein. Like the buckle, the Tet is to be dipped in the water in which oncom flowers have been steeped, and laid upon the neck of the deceased, to whom it gave power to reconstruct the body and to become a perfect spirit of the underworld. On coffins, the right hand of the deceased would grasp the buckle, and the left of Tet were both made of wood, notwithstanding the fact that in the chapter of the orders, it was to be made of gold. I'm just looking at if I should do the pillow. Let me just see. Pillar, the vulture. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just want to see how many I've got. Okay, well, we did the Eye of Horus. So let's just do the amulet of the Eye of Horus too. So the amulet of the Eye of Horus, if you draw it out and you wear it, the Eye of Horus amulet, or Atchat, is one of the most common of all. And it has been used universal in all periods of time. It's never stopped. And it was made of gold, silver, hematite, carnelian. I would love to find hematite and carnelian Eye of Horus's. I'm gonna have to search that out. So they would use it, or lapis, or they would use porcelain or carved wood. But they would use the amulet, just like in the chapter of the Book of the Dead, they would direct that the amulet would be made of wood or stone, and that the Utchat is of 2 kinds, one facing to the left and the other to the right. But both of them together actually represent the 2 eyes of Horus, one of which, according to ancient texts, was white and the other black. And from another point of view, one Atchat represents the sun while the other moon. So we have the Ra and Osiris. And speaking generally, when the Egyptians wore these as an amulet, they intended it to bring to them the blessings of strength, energy, protection, safety, good health. And they had it in their minds, the Eye of Horus, probably the white one or the sun, had the expression meh achat. And that expression is often used so that we could understand it referred to the sun at the summer solstice. And so this summer solstice, which is coming on the 21st, you should definitely create an eye and make it a talisman. And just if you, hopefully you put it in your purse, carry it for a year or however long it lasts. But if you make an Eye of Horus at the sun of summer solstice, that's how they used to do it in the ancient times. And this amulet seems to have been intended to bring its wearer strength and health that was similar to that of the sun at the season of a year So they would make this once a year when it was most powerful. And in one of the chapters of the Book of the Dead, the deceased was made to say, the god Thoth have brought the Uchat, the eye, and he had made it to rest after the departed, O Ra. So the eye of Ra was used for grieving, or if we were inflicted by some storm. But Thoth made it so that it was to rest the departed out of the storm. And when we carry it, it actually is, I am sound and it is sound. I am sound and it is sound. And Nebseni, the Lord of pity, is sound. So it was to obtain full benefit of the eye amulet. And it was made to put things into sound. So try to make one this summer solstice. You can make one and carry it as a talisman, or you can make it and offer it as an offering to the summer solstice, or both. But if you can create one, make it or offer it, you'll actually be able to see how it influences your life. And so they would do this, and it was said that you would be walking with the power of Ra. And the solstice, 12 altars. So they would light it up, and then they would light a candle. 12 altars had to be lighted. So once a month. And that would be for Ra Tamu, for the Eye of Horus. So it represented 4 powers of the 9 realms we started to talk about at the beginning. Okay. Now, in the old days, they would have the eye made. They would burn and crush leaves. So they would burn certain herbs to invoke it. So you can pass the paper, or if you do it clay, or however you want to make your amulet, do it. And then they would mix the ashes with a juice or an oil. And when they would mix the ashes, and I usually use oil, or you can use lemon juice if you want to make it a little inky. And then they would anoint it, the Eye of Horus, and they would strike it upon their ear. So they would hit their ear after they made their amulet. And then as they hit their ear, they would say, I conjure thee by the holy names. And then they would use the names they wanted. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to hit my ear. But that's how they did it. And they would say this name, which I can't even say, but I'll pronounce it. But they would, some of them, if they wanted to get rid of anything negative, would say A-E-I-O-U. How did I do with that? That whoa. That sounding Egyptian. So that is what they would say. So A-E-H-I-O-U-W is pretty much, but it was whoa. Okay. And that would invoke the gods to take care of negative things, or to, if you had a thief or, whatever. So the arrangements of certain vowels would represent a power on each side of the eyes. How interesting is that? So we can create a whole spell and conjure up a spell by using the Eye of Horus and vowels. So I'm going to give you that as well. The Eye of Horus amulet. Can you write that down, please? Eye of Horus amulet. And we're going to get you to try it. So write your Horus, exactly what I say, just do and say. You'll be by yourself. And then at the end, you can strike it with an ear if you want. That was traditional. You don't have to say what I just did. Just say what I have written out for you here. And if you don't want to use and strike your ear, some people would use a hammer and they would hit the eye with a hammer to influence the power of the god to break the thief or anyone that is betraying him. So you could say those words. So that is it. Next class, we're going to get into totems and the amulets of life, which starts with the Ankh. And that is it tonight. Yeah, sounds of the vowels, English uses, but there wasn't English back then. English came from all the others, right? Ancient Egyptian, part 1 and 2, touched on it a bit. I'm glad you're listening. Jesus studied in Egypt as a, yes, he sure did. He did. It's amazing to see how much, but he definitely studied ancient Egypt. Who else was that studied Egyptian that was famous? Sally Baba. Is it Sally Baba or Ali Baba? I can't remember. Sally, sorry. But there's lots of people that actually did study the Egyptian. And look at Christians, obviously, amen, right? Like, be like, you know what? I use amen too after I say my prayers. It's such a wonderful God, don't you think? They don't know, because I love it. Oh, it makes me feel like I know more than them sometimes. So let's pull a card. I'm going to get you to replay this. We're going to meet. You don't have to replay it tonight, but I would do it when you're doing some work and when I put this together. My booklet is going to be for tonight's and tomorrow. So you're not going to get the booklet until after tomorrow's class. But the replay will be put up and then we'll see you tomorrow. And make sure, again, you have a candle. And I'll see if there's anything else we need. So we're going to go into totems. And then that's after that, I think I want to get into some of the occult magic with the different gods. So I think we're getting there. Okay, let's pull a card on tonight, even though I'm seeing you tomorrow. What should I pull? Let's do a healing card because we all want to focus. Hopefully we'll have a dream. So we did an invocation tonight. My candle's already gone out. So mine's done. Let's see. Our invocation magic. How is it going to influence us tonight and moving forward? So I got, thank you for reminding me to detach and find the humor and irony within every human drama. Oh my God. So laughter is the best medicine. So we're all meant to have a little bit of a laugh tonight. So don't go straight to bed. I'll let you go. And yeah, the totems will be really exciting, especially considering it's like ancient Egyptian. So that's cool. I'll let you go and we'll see you tomorrow night at 7. No homework. Enjoy. Have a good night. Bye-bye. You're very welcome.